Hi, my name's Wendy, and this is Wonky Moon Crafts, a knitting, fiber, crafty podcast where I talk about what I'm wearing, what I'm making, what I've finished, what upcoming plans I may have, just anything crafty and fun and fibery, mostly knitting that I may get up to. Today, I will be talking about primarily my current whips and their progress on my seashore blouse, my Juno tee that I'm modifying into a dress, some socks I've made, talk about what I'm wearing, and yeah, and what I'm getting up to. So if that sounds like fun to you, I hope you'll join me and cozy up and let's get talking. All right, let's talk about what I'm wearing first. This is sort of a self-drafted pattern. I've talked about it a little bit before. I essentially mixed the Monday sweater by Petit Knit and the Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers to kind of get an idea of counts and all of those things for this sweater. The yarn is yarn that I dyed myself. The main color, the navy blue, is 100% alpaca that I dyed, and then I held that with a Suri alpaca and silk Suri alpaca and silk that I also dyed with some pink and lilac and teal, and then held those together. So this is a very alpaca-y project. So yeah, wasn't there's some things about it I'd probably fix, but for the most part, it was meant to be a cuddly, stay-at-home, sweatshirty vibe sweater, and I think that I accomplished that. It's got some fairly, like, it's got a big yoke depth, big sleeves. It's a little cropped, not super cropped. Here, let me see if I can stand up and show you. So it's pretty wide. I did a split hem. This is a tank top. My friend tie-dyed me to go with it, to wear under it. So yeah, that is my, I don't know what, my sweater that I'm wearing. So, okay, so next up, I have a finished object. This is my socks. These are the Soxploration sock pattern by Denise DeSantis, also known as Earth Tones Girl. These are, they have, the main thing about them is this is the shadow wrap heel construction for the heel. I've done these several times, but as I've talked about before, I am on a journey to find the right fit for my foot. These in particular, they're pretty close. So what I've learned is that most patterns will say, and most things will say to measure around the widest side part of your foot to figure out what size you should be making. Well, these particular socks, let me closer. These particular socks are well, so what I found is that the widest part of my foot, which typically for most people, I guess, is the ball of their foot, which is like that your kind of knuckly spot right before your toes, right around like this section. But for me, it's actually this section here. I guess that means I have a high arch, but either way, so for me, when I put on these socks, it really stretches across here. Um, and what I've seen a couple things recently where people have talked about the heel flap and gusset method for sock heels is better if you have that higher arch and that wider part here, because you can make it a little longer and make it, those gusset stitches will add a little length to this portion. So while these fit pretty good, and I did make the smallest size, while these fit pretty good, they are a touch tight here, which isn't the worst part, but I feel like it almost pulls the heel down a little bit. So I am going to try another sock construction and see if that works better for me. So, but I do think these are really pretty. I really like the way they turned out. Like I said, for the most part, they're pretty close fit, not a perfect fit for me. I have blocked these. I did not put them on sock blockers. I have small feet. I wear a 6.5. And what I find is if I put them on sock blockers, they're just way too big after that. Sock blockers just are bigger than my foot. So I did not want to put them on sock blockers to dry. I just let them dry flat to try to keep them from stretching out bigger than the size of my foot. And I think that did help. So one thing I will say too is I did the whole sock is done with the same size needle, a 2.25 millimeter needle, including the ribbing here. And I do think the ribbing is a little too loose for me. So that is something I'm taking into account for my next pair of socks. The yarn is mustache yarn. I don't remember the exact colorway. It is their kind of alternate to the apple picking colorway. And then the cuff, heels, and toe are just a mini that I dyed myself. Just some sock yarn minis that I had, 20 gram minis that so I dyed that. And I had just had it laying around. I just throw those in whenever I dye something just to soak up some extra dye, or if whatever, I'll just throw those in. So I just grabbed those because I thought it would work well with this. So that is my Soxploration Shadow Wrap Heel Socks by Denise DeSantis, also known as Earth Tone Girls. Okay, so let's get into whips. And I'm going to start with my new pair of socks that I cast on. So, as I said, I am trying to get the right fit for my foot. And so I did try a heel flap and gusset. Now, so first off, I'm making, this is the sock, I am making the I'm So Basic socks by Summer Lee. I'm using her pattern. I actually had it. I've actually made this pattern before. And the socks that I made were way too big for my foot. And I was also very early in my knitting journey. And at that time, picking up stitches for the flap and doing the gusset felt way, way, way too much that I did not want to mess with that. And I did not want to do that again. So I really kind of steered clear of any heel flap and gussets for a really long time. But there's a lot of socks that I want to make that I think are going to be really cute if I can figure out how to make this, some color work and cables and so on. So I wanted to really figure out my fit. And like I said, with the shape of my foot, I think my understanding is this will be a better fit for me. So that's where we're at. So I went ahead and gave it a shot and had one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is not that hard. The heel flap and gusset is not that hard at all. I just think I tried to do it way too, like, I think it was the first time I ever picked up stitches before. And with with all this going on with the magic loop and things like that, and picking up stitches and pulling this way and that, and, the gusset. And I think it was just a little bit, it felt much more complicated at the time. And then I got that stuck in my brain. It's really not that complicated now since, that was probably 2 years ago. So I've done a lot of picking up stitches and things like that at this point. So it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, so this is what I've done. So for the most part, I'm following the pattern pretty closely. This, let me show you this yarn because I think it's so pretty. I really like it. Okay, so first off, the yarn is Aisling Yarns. This is Winter Storm. And I don't know if you can see that there's like little bits of pink in there, dark blue. It's really, really pretty. And then this is Anchors Away, just a really, really pretty navy yarn. And let me get there. So this is, like I said, Aisling Yarns. This is their label. And this is a 100% superwash blue face luster British 4-ply sock / fingering, 100 grams, and is 438 yards, 400 meters. Yeah, I had picked this up at fiber festival that I had gone to a few years ago. They typically go to a lot of yarn festivals, so you probably could find them at a fiber festival. Not sure if you can buy yarn on their website or not. I will put their links and stuff below in the description if you're interested, because they do have really pretty yarn. And this is a little bit of a, because I think it's the BFL, it's a little bit woolier wool, but my understanding is that it'll hold up pretty well. So there is that. Okay, so back to the sock. So this is the sock. So what I did was, first off, the pattern doesn't say to use a smaller needle for the ribbing on the cuff. But as I mentioned on my other socks, it was a little loose. So I did go down to a 2mm for the cuff. I did do as the pattern suggested and did the 2x1 rib, and I made the smallest size. Just follow the count, the stitch counts exactly. Now it said they typically do, I think, like 6.5 inches for the leg. I didn't want them quite that long. I forget. Mine's about 5 inches. That's my measuring. Right here, 6 inches. So that mine's about 5 inches, and then I started the heel. And yeah, and then of course when I got to the main leg, I went back to the 2.25mm needle, and then did the heel flap again as the instructions said. Did the gusset here. So if you're not familiar with these socks or haven't done socks before or anything like that, and again, I'm by no means an expert, my understanding is that as I have that higher arch and that is the wider part of my foot, because you are coming across this gusset part, that actually adds a lot more fabric through this area than, for example, this sock. Let me see if I can kind of, I don't know if I can show you, but it's definitely the from here to here compared to this part here is quite a bit different on this section versus this section here. This is a bit wider. So I'm hoping that that works for my foot. I've tried it on and it feels snug. It feels nice. Like I said, this is the smallest size. I did a little, I haven't blocked these or anything, but I did I did check my gauge, and I think I'm at, I want to say it was 9 or 10 inches, or 9 or 10 stitches per inch. So I am a little bit of a looser knitter, not super loose, but a little loose. So my foot circumference is around the widest part of my foot is, I want to say 8.5 inches. And then around like my toe area, it's 8.25 inches. So I'm making the small size, which is 7-inch, because I do like them a little snug, but also like I figure you want a little negative ease. But anyway, that's where I'm at on this. Now I'm working across the foot, and we'll just do a normal rounded toe. I did go ahead and cast on, and I have finished the cuff on this. So once I get to the toe section of this, I'll start the leg on this, because since I just keep switching back and forth my balls of yarn. But yeah, these are my socks. I'm really excited about this, to see if this works for me, and then I can, I think, start going in another direction. I don't know how much yarn I've used yet. I will check when I am done. On the other socks, as far as the striping yarn goes, I used like 40 grams or something. Again, I have small feet, so I can easily get 2 pair of socks out of 100 grams, especially if I'm using a mini for heels, toes, and cuffs, and I can use a mini for 2 different pairs of heels, toes, and cuffs. Again, I just have small feet. So, but anyway, that is my I'm So Basic socks by Summer Lee, and we'll see how this goes. If this works out, I have some plans for some other fun socks and hopefully some colorwork socks. So that is. Okay, next up, let me set this down. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about, because it's not the most exciting thing on the planet at this point, just because I don't think there's like a significant difference in what's happened on it to look at, but this is my Juno tea by Sari Nordlund that I am modifying into a dress. I have made a Juno tea before, and I used Magpie Fibers Equinox Sport yarn, which is a silk linen blend, real nice summer yarn. I had made that in the size medium before. I am making this in the size small using the same yarn, different color. This is the Pass the Dutchie colorway. You can see I've gotten down pretty far. If I were actually making the tea, I would be pretty much about to start the ribbing. I'm pretty close to that area. Now what I've done so far is, and this is not in the pattern, so here's my modifications. I did some decreases here because I didn't want it just to be a straight, like, kind of shift dress. I did want it to have a little bit of shaping to it. Even though it's gonna essentially be a t-shirt dress, I wanted a little shaping between my waist and my hips. I think that's a little bit more flattering on my body. So I did do decreases here, just, basically slip, slip, knit, knit two together. And I did that on either side to decrease 4 stitches. And then I did it again, 6 rows later, again, 6 rows later. And then I came down and I decided I probably needed to do another one. I tried it on and I decided I probably needed to do one more. So I did. And I forget how many rows this is. I think it's maybe like 8 rows, 9 rows. I wrote it down. And then I kept going. Then I did, and I hope this blocks out. This is yarn that, like, everything on it is extremely noticeable, every little funky stitch, every little thing. But then when you block it, it really relaxes and evens everything out. So I think everything will be okay. So you may be able to see here, but I did do some short row shaping on the back around to make sure that the back of my dress was long enough to basically make sure that the back of my dress wasn't shorter looking than the front of my dress. I do have my bottom half of my body, my hips and stuff, I wear a size larger than I do on the upper half of my body. That is how I am shaped. I have a little bit going on in the back there. So if I definitely have struggled with skirts and dresses in the past being much too short in the back on me, whereas they look fine in the front. So that's something I have to watch for. So I wanted to make sure that I definitely put some short row shaping on the back of this dress to make sure that I didn't have that problem when I got done with this. So that being the case, I did do that. I don't know if maybe you can tell a little bit more from this angle that is there. And there is short row shaping actually around the shoulders too when you start the project in the normal pattern. So anyway, did that. Then I did, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can see some of that where I did the turns. So I'm hoping that blocks out later. You can see here. But anyway, so then I did started doing increases to increase back out for my hips. Now, that being said, I'm assuming that this is going to stretch and grow, especially with the weight of the whole dress. And when I block it, it's going to stretch anyway. So I am trying to do everything maybe about a half an inch to an inch higher than where the measurements hit on my body. So that way, once it grows, it kind of hits in the right spot. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. I don't think it'll be a huge problem if it's not exactly right. Anyway, I did some increases, basically exactly the same as I did the decreases. I'm just redoing it here as increases to get back to that size. So the next thing I have to kind of figure out, and I've been doing some measurements for, is to figure out, I'm going to have to like start, it's going to soon get to a length where I'm going to have to start rapidly increasing to to get wide enough for my hips at the right point. So what I did was I measured my waist, like my natural smallest spot of my waist. I measured about 2 inches down right at the top of like my hip bones. Then I measured again another like 2 inches down, and then around the widest part of my hips, so that I could see what the progression of my actual body was, to make sure. And then I did the math on the gauge that I'm getting to try to figure out, okay, well, then I need to increase this many stitches over this many rows to add that same amount of, like, you know, if, let's just say, for example, if my waist was, I forget what it was exactly, like 28 inches or whatever, and then I go down 2 inches and measure myself and I'm now 31 inches, then I need to make sure that I increase 3 inches width over a 2-inch span. So how many stitches do I need to increase over how many rows to meet that? So that's the kind of math I've been trying to do and figure out to get to that point. Honestly, I've been working really, really hard on my seashore blouse, which I will show you next. So I've done some on this, obviously, and I am working through that. And this is a somewhat priority for me, not as much as the seashore blouse. This is something I would like to have done by mid to late June at the latest. I feel like then it'll be really nice for the weather. So, but you know, it's not my number one priority right now. So that is where I am on my Juno. Oh, also this collar is a little bit weird. I'm not sure if that's going to block out. It's really tight. I followed directions. I didn't have any problems on my first one. So I might wind up pulling this out and redoing it. We'll see. But for now, that's what it is. And so anyway, this is my Juno tee that I am modifying into a dress by Veronica Lindbergh. This pattern can be found in her Summer Knits book. Okay. All right. Next. Seashore blouse. Okay. This one is coming along. So this is my Seashore blouse by Veronica Lindbergh, and I am using Knitting for Olives Pure Silk. I'm holding 2 strands together in the color Pink Daisies, and I am making this for the spring-centric knit along that Table 10 is doing, where their kind of idea is that you'd have this done by May 1st to wear to Yarncentrick if you were going to Yarncentrick, or just wear in general if you're not. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check that out in the Ravelry threads. But that's what this is, kind of a warm weather knit along slash crochet along, whatever it is that your crafting choice is. So this is where I'm at. I have, since we last talked, let me see if I can see. Can you see the, there you go. Okay. So since we last talked, I finished the entire body. I actually finished it about last weekend. I finished it maybe on Friday or Saturday, and then I blocked it because I wanted to make sure that measurement wise and all of those things that it was coming out okay. And then I started on the sleeve on, I think, Monday. Yeah, Monday I picked up the stitches for the sleeve, and right before I started recording today, I got to starting on the puff stitches, and then I will do the cuff, and then this sleeve will be done. I'm hoping to finish that today so I can start on the next sleeve. The cuff is actually the same as the hem, this nice little like lacy, I don't know, it's not, I don't know, whatever this little chart is here, that's what it'll be on the cuffs as well. So, okay, so here's the thing. This, it's a really good pattern. She has tutorial videos. I used her tutorial videos, especially for the, I'd never done an I-cord collar type thing like this before. So I watched her video for that. That was really helpful. And then the other part of the chart that I found the most tricky for me was actually this part. There's some increases and decreases that were a little new to me. So I watched her video for that. And then that was all good and it was easy to follow. That being said, here's the thing. Here's my only thing that is weird to me about this pattern. So when you look at the measurements, it is extra small through, I don't remember, honestly, I'm sorry. I think it's like 5X or something like that. But it's a good size range, okay? And between every size, there's about, I want to say it's like 2.5 inches-ish between each size chest measurement. And the pattern calls for a 0 to 2 inch positive ease. Okay, great. Here's the thing. There is one exception to the rule on this difference from the like 2.5 inches, 3 inches between each size. The difference is the extra small to the small. And in that case, it's like a 4 inches or 4.5 inch difference between the extra small chest circumference and the small chest circumference, which is obviously much larger than the 0 to 2 inch ease. Which, okay, so that being said, I would typically go with a small. But I think the small circumference was like, finished circumference, I want to say it was like 38 inches. And my bust is 34.5 inches. And the extra small finished measurement was like 33.5 inches. So I'm like, I'm much closer to the extra small size, but it's a little small, whereas the small size would be much larger, much more ease on me than I really wanted. Because I do want it, so I do intend to make the matching seashore blouse or seashore skirt to go with this. I already have the yarn for it and everything. That I do intend to make that next. So I don't want there to be like an extremely different fit from the top to the bottom. So I wanted those to be similar. So anyway, all that to be said is I finished the body and I blocked this. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to get to a size that I was comfortable with. I was pretty sure I was going to be able to. I figured even if I just had to stretch it a bit, like I was close enough, and I am a little bit of a loose knitter, and I was close enough to measurement wise to the extra small size that I would be able to make it work. So that being the case, I blocked this. I did it. I tried it on before I blocked it, and it was a little less ease than I wanted, which wasn't surprising. I blocked it, and I did have to tug it out. So I tugged this out to a 36-inch width. And I think it's pretty good now. I like the way that it fits. My only complaint with how it's fitting me right now is that on the hem, she has you go down from a 4mm to a 3mm for the hem. But this being pure silk, which is a recommended yarn, there's no real stretch in this. And I pulled it out as much as I could. But again, and this is more of a me thing, then I think most people wouldn't have to deal with this. But again, my lower half, my hips, my like when I wear skirts and pants and things like that, the size that I wear is at least one size, sometimes 2 sizes larger than whatever size top I am wearing. So this comes down pretty far enough on my hips that this is actually pretty snug around. Like there's no real ease around my hips, and I don't love that. Around where this hem hits, I don't love that about it. I am going to try to tug it a little bit more when I do my final block on that. What I would have done if I were to do this again is just not gone down that far in the needle size. So that way it just wouldn't have been, it would have had a little more give and not been quite as tight there. And then I think it would have been fine. But again, it's not bad. It's doable. It's fine. That's just the only thing that I wish was a little different at this point. Other than that, like I said, now she does, this sleeve looks a little funny right now, but she did say in her tutorial video to make sure when you block it, because of the way this chart is, to like pull this out a little bit. So that way it's a little bit not so snug right here. It's just the nature of that part of the lace chart. But okay, I talked a lot about stuff with this. All of that to say though, I really, really like this. I really like the way it looks. I'm really excited to wear this. I think it's going to be so nice to wear in the summer. I'm very excited to make this matching skirt to wear with it, to have a coordinating set in it. I think it's going to be just, in my head, it's going to be wonderful and magical. Hopefully it lives up to what I have in my head for it. We will see if that's the case, but I am very excited about this. And I think, see if you agree or disagree, I think the color is pretty good for me. I do tend to like colorful things. So this is, I'm about this. Oh, one other detail I thought I'd show you, because I think it's kind of fun. All the way down the sides, there's kind of a different, down to the hem at least, there's this little bit of a different chart. So I don't know if you can see how it like, how there's that different seam almost down the, right here, right, nope, right here, here. Going down the sides. I think that's pretty cool. And then it's continued on the sleeve. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's there as well. Mm, here, like right here in this little section. But I think that's a fun little detail. I like that. So that is the very detailed version of my seashore blouse by Veronica Lindbergh that I intend to wear to, that I'm making for Springcentric. I was going to make it this year anyway. It was on my list of definite patterns I wanted to make. I wanted to make this since I saw the previews before the pattern was even released. I wanted this skirt and this top. So I'm extremely excited about this and can't wait to wear it this summer. And I can't wait to wear this to Yarncentric. That is my last active whip that I'm going to talk about. So, okay, next up, just some things. Let's talk about some things that I've been up to, slash I'm going to do, and so on. So, I recently did a poll with you guys for some color work and some cable patterns, and picked the Rosy Sweater by Lynette to make. And part of my whole intention was this: I was also going to dye the yarn, go through the whole process. And then I picked out some color options for the patterns, and I did a poll, and you guys helped me pick colors. So I did a dark blue for the flowers and a lighter silvery blue for the main color. I dyed that up. Well, and I will be making those, but we're just kind of going into a season right now where it's a little, it's getting warmer. So I want to finish up my warm weather knits, and then I'll get back to that. But in the meantime, when we were going through that process, one of my colorway options was also to do, and this was my inspiration, was this bottle, to do this kind of dark pink color with yellow. I've been really into yellow. I never liked yellow before, but I'm really into yellow, like extremely into yellow in the last like year. Anyway, so this was my other color option that did not win, but I am still fairly in love with. So I still wanted to dye something in those colors and make something in those colors. So I was doing, so I was keeping an eye out, looking around for a pattern that I thought would kind of go with that. And just for the record, I'm not really a Beauty and the Beast fan. It's just whatever. It's fine. It's not really my thing. But that is what this water bottle is, the Belle water bottle colorway, Disney's Belle, from Beauty and the Beast. So I still had this kind of idea in my head that while I did not make the rosy sweater with those colors, it still kind of fit with me thematically in my brain for the roses and all of that to be for that kind of theming would be a good pairing. So I still wanted something kind of in that vein, something that I thought had that bit of a like, I don't know, feminine, rosy. I just kept picturing her, Belle in that yellow dress, um, with her hair done up in a little updo and the whole thing. So that's kind of the vibe that kept coming back to me. So when I was looking for patterns of what I would maybe want to make this to use these colors for, I saw a preview for pattern called My Fair Lady, inspired by Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady. And the pattern was by Claudia Quintinilla, also known as Units Toronto. And I've admired her patterns from afar for a while. I've not made one. I actually have her book. I like the extra details, embellishments, and things like that she does, although it's a little intimidating to me because I'm just not there yet. And I'm not always somebody to wear something a little bit dressier like that, but sometimes I do. And so anyway, I saw this pattern, the My Fair Lady pattern, and I will put this up somewhere. And it just struck me as like, this is the pattern for these colors. This is what I need. So I dyed yarn. Okay, so first off, okay, so back to my inspiration real fast. So there's a darker yellow and then there's a lighter yellow. I thought for this pattern, the lighter yellow would be the better main color. So I dyed this yellow color. I don't know if it's coming off on how well it's coming off on the camera here, how yellow it's showing up. It is the palest. It is a pale yellow, but it is yellow. So that is, so this is, this yarn here is Nomad's undyed yarn. I typically get my undyed yarn from Nomad yarns. This particular fiber is called, yarn is called, I think, Ivory. It is silk and wool. It's that's why it's got that little bit of a sheen to it, which I also thought would be a really nice extra little bit for this particular project, a little bit elevated because this feels a little elevated to me in general. And then this is a Sari silk. So that is that. Then for the bows and the little bit around the neck in pink, this is what I got. So this is my combo. It is a little bit of a lighter pink than, it's not quite as deep pink as the bottle inspiration, but I think this will actually be better with this. So that is what we have. And I just used the same base, of course, for the pink dyeing, but what do you think? all of this little bit of pink with all this yellow. I'm super excited about this. I can't wait to make this. Um, Again, with the weather changing and so on, this will probably be something I will pick up after I'm done with the seashore blouse and skirt and my Juno tee dress. I might make one more warm weather knit. I do really like them. So I may make one more like tee or tank or something, but even if this is probably the next thing I'm going to start on because I'm just super excited about it. And it still feels to me a little bit like something I could wear like kind of early fall. Um, like it wouldn't be too warm. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I hope so. I am so excited about that. So that is one thing I've been up to, dyeing those. And then I guess it's kind of a lip. I don't know how dyeing yarn goes into the mix of project um, statuses, but there you go. And so I have that ready to go for that pattern now when I finish up a few of these other projects. So then the next thing I've been up to that I want to share is I just got accepted to a test knit. My very first test knit that I have joined, and it is the Little Fosteriania by Melanie Roundtree of Roundtree Stitchery Designs. I have been, if you've seen these patterns before, I will show some of the released patterns that are currently out. There is an adult Fosteriania and a cowl, and then this is the kids version. Um, I have a coworker with a little girl, and I reached out to her and asked her if I made this for her, if she would like that. And so they did. And I sent them colors for yarn choices. I gave them just like, hey, this is the yarn, pick colors from this palette. They've picked colors. I ordered the yarn yesterday, so I'm waiting for that yarn to come. It is, the colors I picked was a light blue, and for the background, well, it's basically going to be monochromatic blues. So there's two different shades of blue for the flowers and a shade of blue for the main body. Then I've got like a green in the similar family that they picked out for the stems, and then I will add the little bees. Hopefully this all works out. The test knit is supposed to be, we're supposed to have our projects completed by June 2nd. I am making the 2 to 4-year-old size, so I feel like this is going to be a pretty quick knit, which is part of the reason, even though I have a lot of projects and a lot of yarn for a lot of projects ready to go, I thought this might be a good, I was just really excited about this pattern. I've been really liking it for a long time, and the idea that like I could make it for somebody that I knew would really appreciate having something made for them. And then I just think it's the cutest pattern. And I knew that, it being for a 2-year-old, it would be a fairly quick knit. I thought this would be okay to kind of sneak in. I've been a little bit hesitant to really try any test knits or anything like that, given just how many projects and things that I want to make already. But this felt like something I could do. So I'm very excited to do my first test knit, to make this for my friend and her daughter. And I'm excited to see how that comes. So hopefully by my next podcast, I'll be able to show you some how that's going. And I will also post some stuff, of course, on social media as I get going and go through that. As part of the test knit, we are allowed to share what we're doing. So since it is, like I said, it is a series of patterns that is already out there, so you can check those out. If you want to make one for yourself as an adult, it's already out. And then the kids version is coming soon, and I think it's going to be the cutest. Anyway, so that is that. Okay, last couple things. Oh, hold on one second. Okay, sorry for that. I recently purchased some fabric. I have been toying around with the idea of sewing some skirts and things. I struggle to find skirts the length that I want. Again, for my height and my body shape and all of those things, there's a very specific style of, I love wearing skirts. There's a very specific style of skirt and length particularly, and like, I don't know, I don't want really round skirts. I don't want super tight skirts. I want just kind of very minimal A-line, fairly straight skirts. And I really want them to come to like the top of my knee. I don't like long skirts. I'm not that tall. I'm not short. I'm just not that tall. So I feel like knee length, and again, just being the shape that I am is much smaller on top. I try not to typically wear things. I find that things are more flattering on me that are things that don't accentuate the bottom half of me, so I look more even, if that's fair. So that being said, I would like to make some skirts and things. I haven't found patterns that I like. I just am not that familiar with sewing. I've done sewing, but very, very little. So that being the case, sorry, I wanted to peek at my mic and make sure it's still on. That being the case, while I'm kind of getting into that, I thought I might make some project bags. So I got these little fabric squares. Last summer, I made like a little wallet purse, like a quilted little wallet purse. So I think I could make a project bag. I don't think it would be the hardest thing. And I think I could make it like a cute little kind of swatchy or patchworky type thing. So I picked these little things up, and I don't know if you can see some of these super cute little fabrics in it. And this one I thought was kind of fun colors. So I want to make some, like I said, little patchwork project bags. I'm struggling to find a pattern. Again, I'm a beginner sewer. I need something fairly simple and straightforward that will walk me through it. If you have any suggestions, I would really appreciate you sharing them with me, because I would really like I think I don't love sewing, but I think it would be really fun to have some cute little project bags that I made. So if you know a pattern or you've done it before where you've made some little project bags, any tips or, like I said, tutorials or anything like that that you have seen or used, if you could send them my way, I would really appreciate it. And then if there's anybody else out there also looking, you can hopefully find them too. So that would be appreciated. Okay, now on to the last and final thing. So I mentioned in my last episode, and I've mentioned a little bit here today, that I am going to Yarncentrick and Maryland Sheep and Wool. Yarncentrick is on May 1st. It's in I think it's Frederick, Maryland, which I think is like 30 minutes from the fairgrounds that Maryland Sheep and Wool is at. So I am going to Yarncentrick on May 1st, which is I think Friday, and then I will be at Maryland Sheep and Wool on May 2nd, the first day, and then I will be going home because the festival is actually the Saturday and Sunday, so I will be actually flying home on Sunday, but I will be there for those two events. Like I said, I plan to wear my my spring-centric seashore blouse that I'm making to that, so I will be going to that. I think my next episode that I record will probably be that week right after I get back, so I will share there kind of what I've seen. If that's something that you're excited about, going to some festivals or things like that, I'll share some of that. I've never been to a festival this size before. I've only been to some smaller ones. So this will be, I'm really excited to kind of see the difference in like a larger, more involved fair compared to what I've been to before. But I am really excited about it. And if you're going, or you've been before and you have any tips, please share it with me. I'd love to know what they are. And yeah, hopefully I will see you there if you're going. And yeah, so that is what I will be up to next. And like I said, I will share some of that on my next podcast. I will also share on social media if you want to follow me for progress on my projects or whatever, going to the festival and things like that. My and how the little Fosteriania is going. I'm at Wonky Moon Crafts on Instagram and TikTok. I also try to post some shorts here on YouTube so that you can see me there as well. So I hope you've had fun chatting and hanging out with me today. I've enjoyed chatting with you. And like I said, if you have any tips on bags, project bag making, I would love to know that. Any tips on Yarncentrick, sheep and Maryland sheep and wool, or just going to fiber festivals in general, love to hear those. And then, yeah, if there's any, what patterns are you excited for right now? Are you making any of these, or what are you working on? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear from you, hear where you're watching from. And yeah, it's been fun. Oh, and one last thing, if you wouldn't mind, if you have enjoyed this, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, that would really help me out, and I would appreciate that a lot. And I just thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It really means a lot. I hope you have the best day and happy making. Bye.